This is Mark at Retired and Rebuilding. This is the video I've been trying to get finished for a while, and it's an important one. I wanted to share it with everybody because I found it very useful. Um, uh, I've been working with computers for a long time. AI is something that's kind of fascinating to me, and I've been playing with it a lot. It's from a graphics background. It's really something that's really changing our industry considerably. Not that I'm much of a part of it anymore, but I've always been interested in it. But when it came to building my van and looking at these projects and looking at what I was planning on doing, I wanted to find a way to calculate. And I'm pretty good with the math on all the numbers with electrical and figuring out how big of a battery bank I need to run what I need to run. I do have a pretty good working knowledge of that, and everybody don't. But even with the good working knowledge of it, it's difficult for me to really calculate well and keep a plan of exactly what I want to do and what it's going to cost. And if you make a change here, you want to be able to see how it affects things. So I thought, I thought, I've done a lot of database work in the past, and I have a tendency to build a database for this, but it's really not worth that. But I did think maybe a spreadsheet working in Excel that would help. And I thought, well, AI is pretty good with that kind of stuff, so I just thought I'd give it a shot. I don't remember which one I use. I use both Chat GTP and Claude, both from time to time. So I think Claude did this, but I'm not positive about that. But what I did is just ask it to build me a worksheet with all the calculations included, and with the ability to put in everything that I needed to size a battery bank and to put on the devices that I wanted, and to see accurately what it's going to be, and taking everything into consideration in order to make it accurate and make it realistic. Something you could count on, and that's what's important. It's one thing to come down and make some notes and estimates on paper, but nothing works out like paper. So the better you can do your paperwork, the better you can plan for reality. And that's what I was trying to do here. I don't want to spend any more. I can't spend much for a battery bank anyway, but I want to do it as efficiently as possible, and I wanted to find a way to know exactly what I needed. Not just, I didn't want to just, buy as big a battery bank as I could. If I may not need to. And then again, I may not be able to afford the bank that, to start with, that runs everything I want to. In other words, I want to be able to expand it and know what I need to do, have an accurate plan for my battery bank, because it's such a big part of the expense of what I'm doing, whether it's a van build or whether it's this thing from a roof of my SUV with the air conditioner on it. A battery bank is going to play a big part in both of those, both in cost and operation. So it's important. But what I did is just pose the question to AI. Told it exactly what I needed and what to consider, and it created something. I was kind of amazed. I'm always amazed with AI, but I was amazed at how thorough and how accurate it is, because it did exactly what I asked it to do. It's even got examples. It's really incredible. And what I wanted to do, because it's just a spreadsheet, you can open it in Excel, or I don't have Excel anymore. I don't pay for it. So I just use Google Sheets, which is free, and it'll work either way. I also have a PDF version of it that you can download and just fill it out by hand. You have to update it, but you can print out another version, update it, update it all you want to. So, you can go about using this tool in any way you want to. And I've put it in. I'm not doing like what most YouTubers would do. I don't want your email address. I don't really need anything from you. I just wanted to share this tool with everybody out there because I thought it was pretty cool. And I'm going to go over it with you. But in the description will be a link to both the Excel file, and I think I've got a Sheets version of it, a Google Sheets version of it, and also just a PDF version. So download all you want to. You don't have to put in the email address or anything. It just downloads straight. It don't ask you any questions. So you don't need to put anything in. See how you like it. Give me some feedback on it. I've used it, but everybody can find things that other people don't. So it would be interesting to see, how it works for you. I've found it very useful. So the rest of this video is just going to be a screenshot, a screen recording of me going through this and explaining it. So so that's where we'll go from here. Is now let's go to the screen and go through all of the different sections of it and how to use it. And I'll just show you exactly what I've put in for my particular example. But you can use it with your own numbers and use it the way you choose to use it any way you want to. It don't matter to me. But I'll show you how it works. And so let's go to the screen now. Okay, here we are on the screen, and as you can see, it's just opened up to the main. If you look down here at the bottom where the tabs are, this is in Google Sheets. I've got just open it in Safari. It's open in a browser, so you may be working in Excel. It may look a little different, but if you're familiar with Excel or any spreadsheets, you've got the tabs along the bottom. The first one is the Start Here, and it reads through and gives you a lot of things to think about. It asks the questions you need to ask. It gives you a good idea of where to start. I thought when I first saw this, I thought it was just, kind of AI overkill. But in reality, it's very useful. It's, reading through this gives you a good idea of what the tool is going to help you do, and some of the questions to think about before you even, start getting into the tool much. And that's really all you've got the questions, the one idea, the questions you need to determine, all of the things you need to think about, and some of the things you need to know as far as considerations when it comes to battery bank. And then the setup page. The setup page is fairly simple. It really, and all of these yellow boxes are ones for you to put your own numbers in. You may be running a 24 volt system. You may run a 48. It's a lot of different ways of doing things. I'm going to be running a 12.8 volt system, which is kind of a car battery type. 12.8 is just like a power station. Inverter efficiency, 87%. That number is already there. I would leave it there because that's pretty well average for your inverter, for any inverter. So I wouldn't really change that. Same thing with a charger break efficiency. If you've got a 100-watt charger, you're not going to charge at 100 watts an hour. So leave it at 85%. The battery chemistry, that I would change if you plan on using, something other than LiFePO. I don't know how much it affects the calculations in here, but it might. So, you want to use a lead acid or whatever. It does make a difference with these two numbers, though. So if you use a different battery type, your usable depth of discharge will change. On a lead acid, your 50% is the depth of discharge you want to go. And of course, your reserve buffer is going to be 50%. On a LiFePO or a lithium, that's a lithium, or on other types of batteries like it, You can go down to 80%, use 80% of the capacity. So that's why they're valuable, and it leaves you just the 20% for the buffer. And then you've got the questions you need to ask: is your off-grid window, days offshore, the whole stretch. You know, how long you plan on being away from shore power. And in my case, I plan on having a generator, so this really don't matter that much, but you'll see here in a few minutes where, it does kind of play into it. So I just put in 7 days. I'm going to be gone. I want to be gone for 7 days without the ability to plug in. And during that 7 days, the number that sizes your battery here is consecutive days with no real charging. And I'm going to say 0 because I'm going to have solar. I'm going to have, or at least I plan to have solar and a generator, as well as the ability to charge while I drive. So I'll have different ways of charging, and even if I'm not plugged into power, I've got options that are almost unlimited. A generator is limited only to the amount of gas or propane that you carry with you. But that's what you're putting in here is kind of the basic numbers. This one is fairly simple. And then you get to the loads tab. The loads tab is really important, and that's where everybody is different. If you go down to the example tab, the very last one, you'll see that there are a lot of example loads to see of different appliances. It gives you a pretty good idea and a pretty good breakdown of what your typical appliance and what load it's going to put on here. So when it comes to your own, things that run, it's really, they've got it broke down here to 2 basic sections. Things that run, like fridge and fans and other things. Some of this is cut off. You can fix that if you want to. I didn't bother. And then things you charge off system, like it's a one-time thing. Like my fridge will run all day, but I'll only charge my phone once a day. So it's things like that. The same way with my tablet, I'll charge it once a day, but my 12-volt AC may run 24 hours a day. So, I want to account for that. And that's what it is out here. As you see, my 12-volt fridge is at watts if known, and when it's running, it's 50 watts when the compressor is running. That I know. Actually, it's a little less than that, but I put 50. Watts when used is 50. It runs 24 hours a day, and the duty cycle is 35%, which means the compressor don't run the whole time. The compressor only runs about 1/3 of the hour. Probably only about 1/4 of the hour. So in other words, I'm overestimating the usage of my fridge, but I think that's the best way to estimate in a case here. So it's going to run about 35% of the time. So that means my fridge will take 32.8 amp hours per day out of my system. 12-volt AC, rooftop AC pulls 450 watts, probably a little less than that, but that's what I'm counting. And then I'm putting 12 hours a day. It may run more than that. And when it's running, I'm putting a duty cycle of 30%. And even at that, you see, it's a big draw. So it's 126.6 amp hours per day. So basically what I'm saying here, and then you got your lights and other draws, induction cooktops. I don't have any of these. They're big draws. So if you've got them, I left them on the list, but I just put in the things that I've got. Everything is down through here, and you can just plug in your own anywhere you want to. Same way down here. I've only got a phone. I put in a laptop if I get one. I do have a tablet, and I may be charging my camera, although I just use my phone. But I put in some stuff here just in case. But really, I just put in the tablet, laptop, and phone. Everything else I put in zeros for. So, that shows a total amp hours used per day and watt hours used per day for that category. and then the always on, the inverter. If you've got an inverter that's on and it stays on all day long, such as your inverter, if you run an air conditioner off your inverter, you need to put this down for 24 hours a day. I do not. I don't plan on using an inverter at all. I don't need AC. Everything I have, I want to run off DC. So I don't have anything down here for any of this except for the solar charge controller will take a little bit. The battery monitor that I've got with a shunt will take a little bit. And the fridge controller, even when it's not running, it will take a little bit. You know, I've put a little bit in there for those, the water pump pressure switch, you know, stuff like that. So it, you know, it counts for a little bit. And it gives you a total usage of your particular situation of watt hours and amp hours per day of what you're going to use. And then that gives you a good idea of your total draw, your total usage. Now, when you go to the next one, the next tab deals with charging. And everybody's going to be different here too. So that's why this sheet is, this little tool is handy, is you put in your own numbers. It tells you what you need, not what somebody else tells you what you need. I plan on having 400 watts of solar. Peak sun hours, about 5 hours. Here in Florida, I'll probably get a little more than that. Some of the areas I might be in, I might get a little less. The peak sun hours on a bad day, you know, the derate factor, which you're not going to get full, you know, full wattage out of it. And so all of that in a typical day, I will be producing anywhere between 1,500 and 300 watt hours of solar. And then I'll have a DC to DC charger. I'm putting in here of a drive-in. I'm pulling in 408 watts. You can get one that pulls in more, but I think it really is really a hard draw on your battery, on your alternator of your car. And I've just got an SUV, so I plan on using a DC to DC charger at a lower wattage and no more than 400 watts. So I've got 408 watts, 3 hours a day of typical driving. May not even have that on a lot of days, but that's, you know, days I'm moving around. 1,224 watt hours that I'll generate from that, from 3 hours of driving. If I've got a generator, my battery charger on my generator, which I've got it down here is rated as 100 amps because I want to have a high amperage charger because my battery will be capable. Charging voltage, I would just leave that at 13.6 because it's going to be hard to know exactly what your charger does. So my charge rate into the battery is going to be 1,360 watts per hour, 4 hours a day on a typical day, 6 hours on a bad day if I have to run it a lot. And these are the watt hours I'll be putting in that I can put in with a generator. So anywhere from 5,400 to 8,100. Same way with shore power. You know, shore power, you can plug in 2 hours a day, you get 2,720 watts from it. You know, if you've got a 1,360 watt input. So, you know, all of these are numbers you just got to look at. These are just giving you an idea of what you've got to do in order to get enough time to do what you want to do. And what I'm coming up with here on my situation is on a typical day will be 10,884 watt hours. On a bad day, 8,460 watt hours. It's got a lot of different information here. I actually hadn't read through all this. I've read through all of it, but I've only paid attention to so much that. And down here, it's talking about supplies and the gallons of gas you need for your generator, and it really, I think, overly exaggerates what you need for gas, you know, and stuff like that. and I think I would like to use propane on a generator. So, it's probably going to be more expensive, but it will be a cost you have to account for. But I think that's just one of the things that I'll account for as I go along. And of course, it gets you down to the verdict tab, and this is where it kind of sums everything up for you. It gives you an idea of what you're looking at. My daily power out with my particular situation is 3,762 watt hours. My daily power in on a typical day is 10,884 watt hours. So my daily surplus coming in would be 7,122 watt hours. In other words, I've got a lot of charging that I probably wouldn't need. But you've got to account for the bad days. So what that tells me is that between all of those charging options, I've got plenty of latitude to build my battery back up during the day as I go along to make sure that I can run for another day. And that's what I need to know. And I think that's what most people need to know. And then if these numbers don't come up looking that way, then you go back and look at your load, you look at your battery, setup, you look at that and see where it needs to be. And as you adjust those, and I adjusted my numbers, I just didn't record it actually. I'm just kind of summarizing here. This gives me an idea of my daily power out, my daily power in on a bad day. So this shows you how big of a battery you need, or at least that's basically what it's saying. And based on this summary, or this tool, which it builds in a lot of extra safeties, it's telling me that I need a 441 watt amp hour battery bank, as long as I've got that amount of charging, and I should be able to do what I need to do. And I think that being the case, that's a fairly realistic number. And I've been looking at cost on that. And I would have thought before I got into this, I kind of had an idea I was going to have a bigger bank than that. So by using this tool, I've kind of determined that I don't need quite as big a battery. I just want to make sure I've got charging options that I can rely on. And as long as I've got that, then I'm not too worried about here. So I'm not going to need the extra expense in the battery. I just need to put the expense into the right combination of charging and battery to make sure I've got what I need. And that's what this tool has helped me do. And I think it's really handy for that. It's helped me considerably. And I go back and change the numbers, and I can see, what changed, what needs to change. Because originally it was telling me I needed a 600 and some amp hour battery. And I went back and changed some of the, because it didn't have any generator time on it. But I can, generator time I can put in there. And that's the reason I left it off originally, is because I don't have to run the generator if I don't have to run it. But by running the generator a little bit every day, for just a couple hours, maybe not even that, every other day or something like that, I can drop it down to a 440 watt amp hour battery and save myself some money up front. So I was going to have all the charging options anyway, so no need to spend the extra money. So that's helped me considerably here. And this tells a lot of the things you need to consider, all the way down to the amount of fuel that you need to take. And it tells you what wattage you need on an inverter. And it's, got the number plugged in here based on some numbers that were obviously there. That's simply to run the AC appliances you plan on running. I don't plan on running any, so you may have some considerations. But I tell you, everything is explained here, and I can't do much better job explaining it than what the spreadsheet does itself. It's got everything built into it and explains it as it's going along. So it does very well. And the verdict page kind of tells you where you need to be. Calculator page gives you kind of a place where you can plug in examples. I can plug in different things here, and I can see it does calculations and breaks down amp hours, per day to watt hours per day. It does all the math for you, and that's what I really needed, and that's what I asked for. And this did a bang-up job doing that. I can do the calculations. I know how to, calculate amp hours to watt hours and vice versa. But what I needed to know, I just didn't want to, spend a whole lot of time doing the calculations. And this does an excellent job. So it does all that for you. And this page here is simply a calculator. It just gives you the ability to just plug some stuff in. Things you charge, things that run all the time. Just plug some things in there and see, what you got, what you need. And then, before you plug it into the load tab and put it in the overall calculation, you can kind of do some upfront work here and see what you need to do. So that's all the calculator tab does. The reference tab gives you all kinds of different devices, all kinds of different categories down through here of what your typical draw would be on that. It also gives you a lot of things to think about, a lot of information. It's good information just to read through. It's kind of a longer version of the Start Here page, but it's very detailed, and it gives a lot of information about appliances you maybe consider and an idea of what to figure that they would, draw. So it really helps you in a lot of different ways. And of course, the example page kind of gives you an overview of the example itself, the whole tool itself and everything else. So, it's just very thorough. I was surprised that AI did this. AI has always amazed me, but this is just a really cool little tool. And I just wanted to share it with everybody. So I'm not going to go through it any more than that. You saw my numbers. You saw me go through each of the tabs and give you a brief overview of what's there. Download it, play with it, see what you think. Leave me a comment. Let me know, if you think it sucks. Tell me if it sucks. It don't matter to me. It helped me. So, maybe it can help you. If it don't, no harm, no foul, I don't guess. Just throw it away. But, it worked pretty good. So I've been wanting to get this video finished up and posted and out, and had the opportunity to do that today. So I'm gonna finish up here and let you download this, give it a shot, see what you can think, and see what you find. Maybe it'll help you determine what kind of a battery bank and how big of a battery bank you need for your own setup. And it's helped me considerably in determining what I really need, and it's probably saved me some money that I wouldn't have spent, that I may have spent otherwise. So, but I appreciate you watching, and download these, see what you have. If I can be some help to other people. And really didn't do much here anyway. I just kind of prompted AI to build this for me, and I've played with it and tweaked it a little bit, but and then put it up to download it. It works great. So download it, see what you think. I'm interested in seeing how other people what other people think about it as well. I've found it very useful. So, well, thanks for watching, and I'll have another video here pretty soon on either a project like this or just a talk or an update or whatever. But until the next video, we'll see you pretty soon. All right, bye-bye.